Choosing Life by ginnyrules27, Chapter 4. Before I get started, please be aware that I might struggle with this one, due to something that triggered an anxiety attack a few weeks ago. I've had the medication I need, but, well, let's just see how this goes, shall we? Freddy ducked into a nearby alleyway, panting heavily, but trying to evade his pursuers. It was a torment he loathed more than anything. The day where he lost all semblance of free will, unless Hades wanted to find a new way to torment him. Which was why Freddy was not ashamed to admit he was somewhat nervous about the fact that he had been able to run and hide. Though it had taken a bit of a fight to do even that. His shirt had gotten ripped off him, though that was worth the casualty. "Oh, Frederick!" Freddy slapped a hand over his mouth to stifle his panting, hoping whichever of his pursuers, who it was calling him, hadn't heard him panting. "Come on, Frederick. Don't be a spoil sport. Evie put a lot of work into this design, after all, and she wants to show it off. How can she do that without a model?" "She can find an actual baby to show it off on, then," Freddy thought. "It's bad enough when she makes me model her designs of women's fashions, but an outfit clearly made for a baby? Has Hades gone mad?" Honestly, Freddy had to wonder why this torment had even been thought up. There wasn't any talk around Tartarus about the Witch Queen having spawn of her own, so why would Hades be having babies on the brain? Maybe it's stemming from his own recent spawn, Freddy thought. After all, the girl is what, 3 now? Maybe Hades wants to add a new false god or goddess to the world. After all, his brother Zeus knows no bounds when it comes to spreading his seed and adding to those who claim to be demigods. Gotcha! Freddy's eyes grew wide as his pursuers finally found him, and he turned to run. However, it was clear that his pursuers were not going to be made fools of a second time, as Freddy felt his legs give out from underneath him. "Aww." The copy of Evie smirked as she came into his sight. "Little baby Frederick fell down." "Is it bad I almost wish you would have to shorten my name for that baby talk?" Freddy thought. "You know, Evie, I bet it has to do with those long pants he's wearing," the copy of Uma said with a smirk as she came out of a side alley, sheathing her sword. Freddy glared as he realised that said sword must have been the thing he tripped over. "So much for free will." "You're right, Uma." The copy of Evie nodded, and Freddy wasn't going to lie. He felt a shiver of fear creep up his spine as he saw a grin begin to form on her face. If he needed to, he'd sacrifice his pants and run through Tartarus in his underwear. Anything to avoid whatever torment Hades had in store for him. "Harry J!" Copy Evie called, the innocent note in her voice sounding out of place for the evil demon Freddy knew her to be. "You called, Evie?" a copy of J asked as the boy stepped out of another side alleyway that Freddy knew hadn't been there a second before. If it had, he would have been caught so much more quickly than he had been. "Would you two be a dear and take Frederick back to the ship so we can finish getting him ready?" Copy Evie said. "It'd be our absolute pleasure," Copy Harry said with a smirk as the boys bent down to get Freddy up. "Stay still now, Frederick. The last thing we wanted to do was to hurt you." "Oh no, wait, that's a lie." Freddy tried to lash out, to kick, scratch, punch, bite, anything to get away, but it was as if his body was completely paralysed. "You know, you probably might have lucked out with a more masculine colour had you just stayed put," Copy Harry said as he grabbed Freddy's arms. Copy J had already grabbed Freddy's ankles, clearly learning from Freddy's escape attempt before. "Evie's got dozens of designs after all." "Oh well, your misery is my happiness." "It's all of our happiness, Harry," Copy J said with a chuckle. "But stop dawdling. We need to get Frederick here back to the ship, so Evie can get him ready for his big debut." Freddy wasn't going to lie. He felt a pit in his stomach as he heard the copy of J say that. Copy Evie had mentioned something earlier about getting to see new people and show off his cute new outfit. That was when he ran. What if his tormentors said was true? If what his tormentors said was true, then he would be seeing people other than them. Then there was no way he wanted to be seen in whatever copy Evie had planned. Especially if there's a chance I could see Audrey, he thought as they made their way to his tormentor's ship. Oh yes, for some reason today's torment had been taking place on the Lost Revenge. Maybe it was some way to tie into the fact that his mother had been a deckhand on the Rose, and so Freddie was part pirate. No, that couldn't be it, Freddie thought. The only people who know that are my father, myself, and Claudine. And Claudine definitely doesn't have the ear of Hades to come up with a torment like this. She's too busy curling up with that rat, being a traitor to the angels, and not even trying to get the rest of the gang off the isle. Oh yes, Hades had graciously kept Freddie well informed of the goings-on of the isle and of Claudine. That infernal television set had been playing constantly whenever he had his serving torment. There was always time for him to be sat in front of that television and sit and be shown and what his half-sister was doing. What his princess of a half-sister was doing. How did she become a princess? She's nothing but a traitor, and that's all she'll ever be, Freddie thought as the copies of Jay and Harry climbed up the gangplank. Looks like Harry and Jay caught themselves a prize, the copy of Henry called from the crow's nest. Looking good, Frederick. Would you be a dear and take Freddie back to the ship? Not for the first time. Freddie had to wonder how Hades learned of his loathing for his father's first name, and how he managed to slip it into every torment imaginable. All right, you rats, Harry called. Copy Harry called. We've got a special guest today to get ready for his big debut. Woo! The copy of the Tremaine brat squealed. You mean? That's right, Tremaine lad. Copy Harry nodded. And while Evie was going to let Frederick choose before he so ungraciously ran from us and Evie's hard work, I think that means he'd rather you choose. The Tremaine brat grinned and then looked at Freddie. I don't know. I wouldn't want to take Frederick's choice from him. What do you want, Frederick? Do you want me to make the choice of your outfit? Freddie paused, as he knew there was no way he could get the answer how he wanted it. A question presented by one of the copies of his loathed enemies. And the Tremaine brat could only mean one thing. Yes, mistress, I think you should choose, Freddie said, fighting the words all the while, but they came out regardless of what he wanted. The Tremaine brat squealed and clapped her hands. Oh, I'm so glad! I'll go get the outfit ready. Harry, will you be a dear and finish getting Frederick undressed? Those pants won't work with the outfit I've got in mind. Not a problem, Tremaine lad. Copy Harry nodded before forcing Freddie onto his back. Freddie couldn't help the small grunt as he met his back against the deck of the ship. What? You thought I was just gonna pull your pants down? Copy Harry asked with a smirk as he came into Freddie's view. Nah, I figured I'd do something with a bit more flair. After all, we've got a very special tool to use for such an occasion. Unsheathing his dagger, Copy Harry held it up, and Freddie's eyes widened as he saw the black handle. He's going to use one of my daggers on me, Freddie thought as Copy J held him still, while Copy Harry got hard to work, removing the last shred of dignity Freddie had. Nice undies there, Frederick, a copy of one of the crew said with a smirk a few minutes later, as Freddie stood in front of the crew of the 19 almost completely naked. If Freddie had to wager a guess, he would probably guess that it had been Dustin who had said that. The only semblance of clothes he had on now were his underwear, but even that wasn't a balm to soothe the humiliation he felt. Instead of the typical dark black boxers Freddie normally wore, Hades made it so he was always in a pair of bright pink briefs. I think the false god is trying to see if someone dead can die from embarrassment, he thought as he ignored the heckles from the pirate crew. It wasn't until a copy of the Tremaine Brat came back that Freddie wished he could run once more. The Brat was holding two very similar outfits. Both were onesies one might think a baby would wear, which were already degrading for a man such as Freddie, but it wasn't the worst part of them. No, the worst part was the fact that one of the onesies was that of a dragon. A purple and teal splotched dragon onesie with a red so light it was almost pink tutu around the waist. The only reason Freddie even knew the word tutu was because the copy of Evie had designed a ballerina costume for him during one of his torment days, after he pushed the Tremaine Brat away from him trying to get away from one of her makeovers. The other onesie was fairly obvious of who it represented, considering the other two heads on each shoulder. It also had the colours that were opposite of Freddie's usual black, though. The yellow and dark red that he knew had come from Jay, DeVille and Gil the Moron's colours were at least enough that it wouldn't look too bad.
Now, I wasn't sure which one Frederick should wear, the copy of the Tremaine Brat said as she looked up at Harry. I know Frederick asked me to make the choice for him, but they're both so good. Harry, which one do you think?
Oh dear God, Freddie thought as the pit of his stomach grew at the smirk on Harry's face. Legs, if you're going to work, now would be the right time. Oh, he looks so excited, Copy Harry said with a smirk. I think we all know the one Frederick would want to wear, as he's shown around the general population of Tartarus. Tremaine, let's go with the dragon onesie. Let's go with the dragon onesie.
Oh, great! The copy of the Tremaine Brat grinned. I thought it was going to be that one we'd go with, but you never really know.
Very true. Copy Harry nodded and then smirked. All right, you rats. Hold him steady. What? That was the only thing Freddie was able to get out before he was rushed by the 19 wharf rats. Either Hades was getting bored with his usual torment, or there was something extra special about today. Hades always seemed to go out of his way when something special happened. When Claudine had her daughter, for instance. The copy of Mal turned into her dragon form and spent the entire day doing nothing but tossing him in the air. Sometimes she'd catch him before he hit the ground. Most of the time, though, she would just be too slow, so Freddie had to finish that torment bloodied and bruised. When Blueberry's boyfriend finally worked up the nerve to propose to her, Freddie spent the entire day modelling a wedding dress the copy of Evie worked on. Freddie truly didn't know how Hades even knew Blueberry was working on wedding dress designs, but he did. Though maybe he just took Mal's dress as inspiration. Oh, of course, Freddie knew that Blueberry designed Mal's dress. It was one of the bits of the information Hades had graciously given him. There is going to be a bruise the size of Notre Dame on my back after all of this, isn't there? Freddie thought as his back once again hit the deck of the ship. Not that the rats cared. All they wanted to do was stuff him into that goddamn onesie.
Oh, I've got the perfect accessory!
The copy of the Tremaine Brat squealed as Freddie was finally zipped up. Oh, not because Freddie squirmed too much or anything, but because the copy of the rats was spending way too much time taunting him. Go get it, Dizzy, Copy J said, smirking as he yanked Freddie up off the ground and put the hood over Freddie's head. We'll go get Freddie here set up in his special ride as he tours around Tartarus.
Okay, Jay,
the copy of the Tremaine Brat said as she ran off, and Copy J smirked as he stuffed Freddie forward, using the older VK to stumble a bit, as he wasn't used to the footy part of the onesie. Looks like Frederick forgotten how to walk, Copy Harry taunted. Need us to hold your hand, little boy? Nah. Nah. Freddie froze as he heard a new voice. We can do better than that. CJ, what brings you up to the deck, lass? Same thing that brings you up here, Harry, the copy of CJ said as she came out of the shadows. I heard we were tormenting Freddie, and thought I'd lend a hand. After all, it's such a lovely day for a stroll around Tartarus. Why don't I like how she put an emphasis on the word stroll? Freddie thought as the copy of CJ brought out what could only be described as an adult-sized version of an old-fashioned baby carriage. The base was a faded white, with white wheels and a floral pattern carved into the side, while the canopy and blankets were purple. Mal's specific shade of purple. "Oh, isn't that cute? He thinks we're going to let him run away again." Copy Jay smirked as Freddie turned slightly to get out of Jay's grip. "Frederick, get into the scroll. Frederick, get into the stroller." Freddie glared and tried to exercise his free will, but he couldn't. No matter what, unless Hades decided to grant him some to toy with him, Freddie could never say no to the copies. It was what truly made this the worst torture Hades could have come up with.
"I think it might be too big for the little baby," the copy of CJ said with a smirk. "Harry, why don't you help him?"
"I think that might be a wonderful idea, CJ," Copy Harry said, and before Freddie knew what was going on, Copy Harry had lifted him up and put him inside the basket of the stroller. In a flash, his arms and leg were restrained, so there was no chance that Freddie would be able to escape. Not that he'd be able to, even if he wanted. All the copies would have to do would be to tell him to give him an order, and then he'd have to stay stuck to the stroller as if he'd been there by glue.
"I figured we didn't want our baby to use his big boy words today,"
the copy of the Tremaine brat said as she came up to the group and held up the accessory she'd gotten to get. "Yep, it's official. The Lord is testing me," Freddie thought as he saw the purple and blue pacifier with a band around it, presumably to keep Freddie from spitting it out.
"Jay, can you remove Frederick's hood for a split second so we can put his passy in?"
"Oh, of course, Dizzy," Copy Jay said, and Freddie blinked slowly as the world regained a bit more brightness.
"Okay, Frederick, stay still now,"
the copy of the Tremaine brat said, and Freddie felt his body seize up, like it did whenever the brat wanted to give him makeovers, or when Copy Evie needed a mannequin for her designs. There was nothing he could do. He had to obey.
"There!"
The copy of the Tremaine brat grinned as the pacifier was put in Freddie's mouth and secured.
"Okay, Jay, put the hood back on now."
"Got it, Dizzy." Copy Jay smirked, and Freddie realised that, with the hood up and how baggy it was, it looked as if Freddie was wearing the pacifier of his own free will. How could it not look like that, coupled with the onesie and the stroller? "At least my father's not here," Freddie thought as the copies of Mal and Uma walked up to them.
"Who's pushing the stroller?" Copy Mal asked. "I understand we're taking a trip through the general populace of Tartarus." "I'll push it."
"Just my luck," Freddie thought as his half-sister came into view. "I swear to God, Claudine, when I get out of this, I'm going to make you pay for everything you've done and this motley crew have done to me."
"Oh, aren't you the cutest?"
Copy Claudine cooed mockingly.
"Honestly, Frederick, you make a better baby than a gang leader. Though considering your mum was a deckhand, I'm not all that surprised."
"Well, at least with this pacifier on, I can't call her captain," Freddie thought, trying to find a silver lining in his never-ending torment.
"I know you're wondering where we're going."
Copy Claudine smirked as she looked at her brother, the copy of Henry slipping an arm through hers as they began to walk down the gangplank. They looked like a family just going out for a stroll. Never mind the fact that Freddie was older than Claudine and was a feared and beloved gang leader, not like the little boy they were trying to make him look to be. "You're not gonna tell him, are you, Captain?" Copy Henry asked.
"Hush you. You know how much I love it when you call me that."
Copy Claudine teased and kissed him on the lips.
Though this may just torment Frederick more than what's originally planned.
Freddie couldn't really tell where they were going. The combination of the canopy and the hood blocked out most of what he was able to see out of his peripheral vision, so the only thing he could see was the copy of Claudine smirking down at him. The way the stroller was designed, Freddie couldn't help but even keep his head up comfortably, so he had to lay completely on his back, which only caused more smirking. "Let go of me!" he heard a familiar voice declare, and Freddy's heart dropped. No, they couldn't actually be going to. "Ah, but Claude. May I call you Claude?" "Oh, it doesn't matter because Hades given me special permission to give you an extra special treat." "Is this the reversal of this unfortunate occurrence, and I'm up with St. Peter and my son?"
"Unfortunately for you, no, it's not." Copy Claudine spoke up and smiled at who Freddy could only assume to be Lucifer from his short interaction with him upon his death. "Lucifer, you're doing well."
"Princess, I hope you and your husband are doing well." Lucifer grinned. "She's not a princess," Frollo scoffed. "Lying is a mortal sin. If you are going to represent the Frollo name, you do well not to besmirch it by lying. Then again, women should be seen and not heard, lest they ensnare men and lure them to temptation."
"Uh-huh," the copy of Claudine said, her voice flat. "And that's why I prayed for daughters for both of my pregnancies. And Lady Alethea was good enough. And Lady Alethea was good, because my husband and I have 2 beautiful daughters. But that's not why Lord Hades had Lucifer bring you here."
"Then what is the reason?" "We thought you'd want to say hi to your son," Colby Henry said, an amused smirk on his face. "Impossible." Frollo shook his head. "Frederick lived his life devoted to God and was a good son, unlike some people I could mention."
"Well, considering I'm a daughter, it'd be pretty hard for me to be your devoted son." Copy Claudine shot back. "But come look in this stroller if you don't believe me." Freddy heard his father scoff, but then he heard footsteps echoing before Freddy could find himself looking at his father's face. Or, at least, it was his father. Or, at least, he thought it was his father's face. Never before had Freddy seen the man so stunned. Then again, seeing your only son in the wrong version of hell, wearing a onesie of the symbol of the girl he hated more than anyone else in the world, and having a pacifier shoved in his mouth, would probably stun most people. "So, this is how God has decided to punish me, for what I do not know. Because I know such a disgrace before me could not be my son." "Oh, but he is," Copy Claudine smirked. "He heard that he was going to get to see you, so he wanted to get all dressed up to impress you."
"What are you doing?" Freddy thought as he looked up at the copy of Claudine with his eyes wide. "You know as well as I that this wasn't my choice." "Ah, well, then if this is the case, Frederick, enjoy your time here in the false hell. Our God has clearly forsaken you, and I'm only glad God took you before your debauchery could make it apparent before now. I don't know what I could have done to earn 2 such disgraceful children." Freddy's heart sank. He had denied it, of course, and pretended like the words meant nothing to him. But the only thing he wanted, more than serving God and destroying Mal, was his father's approval. And here he thought that he had it before he died. Guess not.
"Burn down half a city to attempt to get laid when a girl in question didn't even want to be with you in the first place? Oh, and the girl was about 16, so clearly you taught Frederick well, considering the whole Isle knew about the comment he made about CJ when she was 13 and he was 18. The copy of Claudine said. Frollo glared at her. "Know your place, girl." "That's your highness to you, Frollo," Copy Claudine said, glaring back at him. "And you know what? I think this little family reunion is over." Finally something we agree on, Freddy thought. "Take care, Lucifer," Copy Claudine said, giving the demon a smile. "Thank you, your highness. I hope you and the others take care as well," Lucifer said, and Freddy could hear the smile in his voice. "Come along, plaything. Maz will be happy to have you back in her clutches." Freddy sighed softly as their footsteps faded. Not as soft as he thought, though, as the copy of Claudine smirked down at him. "Oh, you thought it was all over? Just because our father called you a disgrace? Oh, no, Frederick. We've got all of Tartarus to go through. Besides, you look so cute. How could we not show you off?"
Yeah, death by embarrassment seems to be the plan today, Freddie thought as Copy Claudine and Copy Henry continued their walk. His only hope was that he'd be able to see Audrey, to let her know how their daughters were doing, and how Claudine was leading them down the path of sin. But in the back of his mind, he knew he wouldn't be so lucky. After all, this was supposed to be a torment. Seeing Audrey would only be a good thing. God, please let tomorrow be falling from Notre Dame, or getting eaten by hyenas. Anything would be better than this, Freddie thought as his torment began anew. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. While I'm glad Freddie's getting his just desserts, this would have been very triggering for me. I think that literally the only reason I'm not freaking out is because of the medication I took. I'm not going to go into what triggered me very much, but it had something to do with a series called Has Been Hotel. And it goes into things such as this, but far, far more visceral and brutal. And I saw a 20-second clip of it, and it hit me with such a bad anxiety attack that I fainted, threw up twice, and had to go on multiple runs to the bathroom. And it's because of that that I had to go on my medication. I won't be on it permanently, but it's basically, I take it when I feel the symptoms coming, and it helps me fight them. Think of it like water. Instead of being flooded by a tidal wave, it's just a little splash, and it cuts out all the symptoms that make everything 50 times worse. Oh boy. So yeah, I'm going to do another story after this to help cleanse my palate. Ginny, you are an expert writer, and this torment, oh my god, was it fitting for him. But I cannot stay here any longer. So thank you again for what you do. But I'm going now. So you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe. Hit the bell to get notified. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. And remember, have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, and I'll buy no pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.